The Powered Paragliding Show, brought to you in conjunction with Paramotor Magazine, with your hosts, Michael Purdy, Jeff Going, and Paul Anthem.
Let's fly away!
Welcome to the Powered Paragliding Show. I'm Michael Purdy here with Jeff Going and Paul Anthem. How you doing, guys?
Greetings from Chicago. Well,
hello from Ohio.
We're having a fun time today. Paul has some thoughts on flying high. Fear of heights. Is it real? Well, it's real for some people, but Paul's got some interesting perspective on that.
Yeah, isn't that amazing that some of us PPG pilots are afraid of heights? And I've heard it, just offhand a few times, but until someone explained it to me, it was Cindy Atkinson said she's afraid to go high. And I thought, wow, that's pretty interesting, because here we're all pilots. And Cindy and Phil Atkinson are long-time pilots. They've been flying for a long time. And so I thought I'd put that subject out there. I mean, have you heard that from other pilots, that they're afraid to go high?
I don't think it's unusual. I think there's a lot of guys that never fly over 500 feet. What do you think, Jeff?
Yeah, I've experienced it myself. Here I fly for a living, and yet when I'm in a powered paraglider, being at 3,000 feet makes me feel kind of naked and open.
It's a family show. I keep telling you that, Jeff.
I know. No visuals.
Yeah.
But the reality is...
Well, actually flying naked's not that scary, but anyway.
How do you know?
Don't go there. Yeah. All right, so what were you saying? That's amazing, Jeff. So it gives you a little pause for consideration.
Yeah, you're sitting in this little seat up at 3,000 feet. I just felt kind of weird. I mean, it didn't make sense that I would feel weird, but you felt exposed. I think that for sure if you fall out of a craft anything above about 50 feet, it's probably fatal. So 50 feet or 3,000 feet doesn't really matter, but there may be a little more risk when you're up high, primarily because of collision risk with airplanes. Minimal though it may be, it doesn't exist at 300 to 500 feet for the most part, where it does above, say, 800 feet.
Right.
Well, Jeff, I'd be willing to bet that that's not really what's running through people's mind. I mean, maybe a little bit.
Nah,
but I think
right.
there's something physiological or psychological about it. And actually, Cindy explained it to me, at least for her. She said, and this actually kind of makes sense, she said that when she was up a few thousand feet, that she couldn't feel any sense of movement. Everything looked so distant. In other words, you almost lose your feel of control because you can't sense yourself going forward or backward or up or down.
I've never heard that. Have you, Jeff?
No, but it makes sense. That's I've noticed it because I find that it's kind of cool to be up there, especially when the music is playing. My couple flights ago, I had the music playing. I haven't done it in a while, and I went up high to where I was actually stationary, and it was kind of cool just to be sitting up in that little perch. But I can see how you're up real high, you're disconnected. Plus, it's a long way down. If you decide you want to come down, maybe that's in the back of their mind.
Yeah, it takes a while. But, this is...
Oh, that's another good point. You're right.
This is irrational as well, but I've actually thought about, if something really bad happened, which I don't know what it would be, and it's not normally the way I think, but if something really bad happened, think how far you'd have to fall. It'd be the difference between 10 seconds and a minute and a half or something. It's like,
Well, have you ever looked?
Yeah, that makes sense. Sure. But that's almost kind of illogical because that, of course, we know.
Yeah, the whole thing.
If you rationally think about it, it gives you more time for your wing to recover and or pull your reserve parachute.
Right.
But the air's different up there. No, actually, I like being up high because we're so thin that I have less air in my going to my brain, and I just kind of look up and say, "Hey, what happens when I pull this string?"
Yeah.
When I'm down low, I'm not that stupid.
What's the highest you've ever flown, Paul?
I almost made it to 12,000 feet.
Holy mackerel!
Wow, how long did that take?
Just 2 weeks ago.
How long did that take?
Well, I started at 9,800. So it didn't take too long.
That's right. You know, I had one.
Right.
My highest flight was in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and I started from around 5,500, maybe 6,000, and I made it up to 10,600, almost 11.
When do you need oxygen? It's 10,000 feet, or when do you get a little giddy, Jeff?
It depends. For regulation purposes, you need oxygen. The airline guys need it above 10,000 feet. The passengers need it above 12,500 feet if they're going to be there for over half an hour. And everybody needs it all the time above 14,000. But you know what? If you drive to the top of, what is that mountain in Colorado? Colorado Springs, Pikes Peak. If you drive to the top of that, you're at 14,000 feet. I went up to 3,000 feet over my neighborhood one time, and then it dawned on me, I've been right here in a 737.
So you were literally at the same place that you had flown the big trike, the 737?
It might have been the other way around. I had flown at 3,000 feet near my house, and then I was flying the 737, and normally we're up higher when we're over my house, but not this time. So it was probably from the 737 I thought, uh-oh, I've been right here in the paramotor. So I don't do that anymore. But
you could, if you were looking out the window and, we were in front of you in plain sight, not just, I know that risk and reward video splat on the windshield is nice, but I mean, how hard are we to be seen from a 737? Well, and are they really looking out the window that much?
Yeah, at that point you'd be looking out the window primarily because your cockpit chores are light. But if you're coming in and they give you a runway reassignment or something and you're having to reprogram everything, you might not be looking out the window so much. You'll be looking out it periodically, but you got to look down and spend a fair amount of time inside the cockpit. You're not so sure they're going to be watching. If you saw
if that happened, Jeff, if that happened, obviously it'd be bad for the PPG pilot, really bad. But just say what came true that you see on Risk and Reward, it's not going to bring down the 737. It's going to ruin your day entirely and completely and permanently as a PPG pilot. But what would it do to the 737?
I don't have any data points for that beyond birds. Now, a bird will typically weigh up to about, I think, 20 pounds. If you hit a bird in the radome, it'll collapse it and may collapse it all the way into the interior of the footwell of the pilot. That's a 20-pound bird. So I wouldn't be so...
What would happen, though? But what would happen if you hit right above the engine and the wings up above? I mean, the control surfaces that fly a 737 are, they're not as big as our wing. Is it possible that the motor could catch on there and do bad things to the 737? I don't know why I'm asking this. It's just interesting.
Well, I don't...
Yeah, I bet that would be a very bad day.
Yeah, I just don't know. I mean... That's getting into the weight where I still don't know that it would. You're hitting at about 250 knots, but you're maybe 250 pounds at 250 knots, and I don't know whether it would do any kind of real serious enough structural damage. Obviously, you could take out the motor really easily. I mean, a flock of birds.
No,
could
I'm
do
not
that.
saying that. I'm saying that if you got caught with the engine on the bottom and the wing on top, a PPG wing, that could put a lot of pressure on a 737, maybe even force it to dive. It's another control surface.
No, the wing will rip right off.
All right, we're out of time.
Okay. The wing's ripped off and we're out of time. You're going to leave us hanging with the ring ripped off?
Yes, we are. Nothing else we can do. We're way over time. You're listening to the Powered Paragliding Show with Jeff Going and Paul Anthem.
Every new beginning comes from some other beginning.